So I'm Julia McNally. I have the enormous privilege of being the leader of the new climate action team at Toronto Hydro. Our job is to inspire and support our customers to electrify their heat, hot water, and transportation. And I proudly can say I now have an electrified domestic life. My house and my transportation are all now electrified, and it feels great. So very pleased to be here with you today, and let me kick it over to Michael.
Thanks, Julia. So good morning, everyone. My name is Michael Adelick. I'm a consultant on the climate action team, and I'm focused on small business and residential support, again, around decarbonization and electrification. That's my role in the climate action team, and I will pass it to Mo.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. Thanks, Julia, Dominic, and everyone else for joining on what is looks like a nice sunny Friday. So hopefully it'll be worth your while to be here and we'll all learn something. I'll start by sharing my presentation as I introduce myself. So my name is Mohammed. I go by Mo. I'm a manager on the climate action team. And my responsibility lies on the building side. So for small buildings, so that's residential, small commercial building. And like Julia and Michael both mentioned, our goal is to help these customers decarbonize and get off the gas, like Michael's beautiful background there says. So I'll share my screen here and I'll go through my presentation. I'm just going to make sure I share the right screen here. Can everyone see the presentation mode?
Yep, it's good. Thank you.
Awesome. Perfect. So just give me a moment. Sorry, I'm trying to shuffle the other screen around here. Okay, perfect. So I'll start off the presentation here just by giving a broad perspective on Toronto Hydro, who we are, what we do, and then talking about how the climate action team fits into that. So this is just some information about Toronto Hydro, our service territory here. And some facts about us. So we were established in 1911, so that's over 100 years ago now. And we distribute approximately 18% of Ontario's electricity. And I'm sure all of you on the call already know this, but when I say distribute, what that means is essentially if you look at the electricity system in Ontario, it's split up into three different parts. There's a generation piece, which is done separately. Then there's a transmission, which is done by Hydro One. They transmit the power that's generated down to the city centers. And then the distributors, which Toronto Hydro is, distributes that electricity to the customers. And so we don't generate power, we don't transmit power, we only distribute power. So we have a pretty narrow focus on what we do. And we distribute this energy, this electricity, through maintaining a large network of assets. So all this equipment that's listed on this slide here, we install, we maintain, we operate this every single day to make sure that we supply safe and reliable power to our customers. That's our broad, like Toronto Hydro's broad mandate. That's what we do, right? In terms of governance, Toronto Hydro is a corporation and the city is our primary stakeholder or shareholder rather. And that's how the governance for Toronto Hydro works. Now, as many of you already know, most of you on the call will know this, Toronto Hydro or City of Toronto has a very sort of ambitious goal of reaching net zero by 2040. And the Transform TO strategy is the document that sort of outlines how this goal will be achieved. And this pie chart here shows where all the existing emissions come from in the city, and most of them come from buildings and transportation. About 90% of the emissions come from those two sectors. So in order to achieve this net zero goal, the City of Toronto asked Toronto Hydro to develop a plan to support their vision. And in response to this, we submitted our climate action plan to the city in 2021. And based on this plan, we received in 2022 an expanded mandate from the city. Now, our goal and the goal of the climate action plan was to deliver nationally significant greenhouse gas reductions, to stimulate and facilitate the local clean tech economy, and to advance social equity and economy. Those are the broad goals for the climate action plan. Now, this climate action plan and subsequent updates, annual updates, are found on our website, so you can go read it. It's public documentation. And the climate action plan has sort of two areas of focus. One is becoming an expanded electricity distributor. So about 75% of the net zero strategy for the city of Toronto depends on Toronto Hydro being able to expand and modernize our grid to meet that future vision. And the second piece is the climate advisory services. And this is what the climate action team provides. That's our team here. We provide these climate advisory services, and our goal is to work closely with customers, clean tech companies, and other stakeholders to help remove barriers and enable delivery of electrification projects. That's what we do. There's some information here on what we're focusing on. So EV chargers, building heat, and solar and battery, and some targets associated with that. And I'll also highlight that we actually have a pretty good track record of successfully delivering on sustainability projects through the Save on Energy program, which was delivered by Toronto Hydro between 2006 and 2019, where we helped deliver about 1 million conservation projects, which resulted in about 3 terawatt hours of electricity savings. So that's what the climate action team does, and that's how we fit into Toronto Hydro broadly. And our goal is, again, to help customers decarbonize. Now, my team on Toronto Hydro is specifically focused on residential small commercial. And right now, we are really focused on the residential portfolio. And if we look at that, if you look at the residential portfolio, this is what commonly would be typical for a home in terms of GHG emissions. And majority of the emissions come from your vehicle, your home heating, and your domestic hot water. Those are the three, the blue, orange, and the gray there. Some emissions also come from the electricity consumption in your home, but those are small compared to the rest. And all those three sort of big producers of GHG all rely on burning some sort of fossil fuel, and that's where the GHGs come from. Now, the solution to decarbonize these three fossil fuel-driven categories is to electrify them. That is our strongest pathway to net zero, is through electrification of those technologies. In Ontario, that's particularly impactful because our grid is about 90% emissions free today, and most of our electricity is coming from low emitting sources such as hydro and nuclear. Now, this will shift over time, especially in the sort of short term, where some of the nuclear fleet has to be taken offline for maintenance. And as they do that, the emissions will go up on the grid, but eventually those will come down. And the goal is, in the long term, for there to be our grid to be completely emissions free. That's the long-term sort of goal, right? Or as close to emissions free as it can be from a technical perspective. So given this, if we look at sort of what that means for reductions in your home, if you electrify those three technologies, you can see that if you go from an internal combustion engine car to an electric vehicle, from a natural gas furnace to a heat pump, and a natural gas hot water heater to an electric hot water heater, you can significantly reduce your GHG emissions that come from your home. Now, it's important to mention here is that we're not asking everyone to do this today, right? Or all together. What we are asking people to do, and what our sort of goal is, to educate people so that when the time comes to make some of these decisions, they're ready and have the information they need to be able to make the right decision. We know from industry that about 80% or so of furnace replacements are done in emergency. In the middle of the winter, your furnace breaks down and you got to get a new one. I don't want that to be the first time people learn about what a heat pump is, when they're panicking in the middle of the winter, right? That's not the right time to learn about these things. The right time is to learn early and to make a plan so that when that does happen, you're ready to make the right decision. There's also some additional benefits to heat pumps. Again, all of you probably know about this, but just to mention, right? So increased comfort in your home from more consistent temperature and humidity. For some, and actually most homes, will also save operational costs from heat pumps. This is not true for everyone, obviously. This is very dependent on the home, the age of the home, the insulation in your home, your heat pump size, there's a bunch of variables there. But the government of Canada did do a survey, and they concluded in Ontario, most people will see some monthly savings from switching to a heat pump. And finally, improved air quality, right? So in a furnace, you have, in your home, there's a fire that's burning natural gas in your basement somewhere, and that produces all kinds of gases, CO2 obviously, but also nitrogen oxides, which are not good for air quality for your home and for your neighborhood. So removing that and electrifying it will also improve your air quality in your home and in your neighborhood. So now, Julia mentioned this a little bit, I think, but the climate action team, we've been around for just over a year now. I've been on the team since October of last year, and we've made some great progress. And I wanted to highlight some of the things that we've been working on so you guys understand what our team really does. And I've broken this down into 3 different sort of segments here. I already mentioned barrier removal. That's one of the key things that we're working on. And in some way, shape, or form, everything leads towards some sort of barrier removal. But in terms of particular projects, what we're working on right now in the past few months, one of the ones we've been working on is this issue of panel upgrades. So we've been hearing from our customers and consultants that a lot of times when people get a heat pump or an EV charger, they're being asked to upgrade their panels, which isn't always necessary, but they're still being asked to do this fairly costly project in order to electrify their home. So we're trying to find ways for customers to avoid these unnecessary and costly panel upgrades where possible. So that's something that we've been working on. We've been also working on improving the solar and storage process to install at your home. And actually last year and then earlier this year, we lifted some solar and storage sizing restrictions so that more people can install solar and storage. And we continue to make those changes to enable more of that to happen. We've also are working on developing a capacity map for customers and their consultants to be able to check if capacity is available in their neighborhood as they plan for projects like solar and storage. The other piece here is customer engagement. We've been working on a lot of customer engagement recently. And one of the things that we're planning to do is to build platforms. These are self-serve online tools, essentially, which will help customers plan their decarbonization journey and to be able to make more informed decisions. So these are tools that we're currently developing. We're also providing direct customer support. So Michael on my team is working with several customers right now where we're providing one-on-one service to these customers on projects, on electrification projects that have some sort of complexity to it, right? So they're not just the normal project that can go through our regular process. If there's some sort of complexity, we're stepping in to help out. And as we learn what these complexities are, the goal is to work on these projects one-on-one, learn what the pathway is there for electrification for this type of customer, and then take those solutions and make them a standard so that next time this comes up, it doesn't have to be a particular like one-on-one, custom solution. It can be a standard that we already have and customers can flow through that through our existing standards. And finally, community engagement on this piece. This has also been something that we've been working on a lot recently to engage directly with our communities. We went to the home show earlier this year. That was a really successful home show that we went to. And we're actually tomorrow, there's a fun fair, the Davisville Fun Fair that we're going to. It's an event that's set up by one of the counselors, and we're going to be there. It's at June Rollins Park, I believe is the name of the park. So we'll be there tomorrow, Michael and I talking to residents there. And obviously, we've also been working really closely with Toronto Home Retrofits. We've partnered with them to continue, and support them to expand on the great work that they've already been doing. And this presentation is kind of part of that sort of broader community engagement that has been enabled by our partners at Toronto Home Retrofits. And the final sort of piece I'll mention about is the market support piece that we're working on. We've heard from the customers and from others doing electrification projects is that it's hard to find good contractors and good consultants to do these types of projects. So over the last year or so, we've been working on developing our Trade Ally Network, which is basically a network of qualified consultants, contractors, energy advisors, whom we can connect customers to so that they can have a reliable person to go to and speak to about these projects. And we expect this Trade Ally Network to launch sometime later this year, probably sometime in Q3. We've also been working on some capacity building, and essentially that is working with industry partners to build capacity in the clean tech industry. And as part of this, earlier this year, we did a heat pump training workshop, and we plan to do more of those as well in the future. And finally, this is the piece that is really, really interesting, is the research work that we're doing. And we're working with universities and other organizations on research projects which are relevant to our electrification goals. So one example is the one that we're currently working on, is we're trying to figure out through a research project what kind of messaging resonates with customers when it comes to promoting electrification. What resonates? Is it the argument about climate change? Is it more to do with comfort? Is it more to do with cost savings? What are the messages that resonate? And once we learn that, we'll be able to message better and communicate better with our customers. We're also working on this other project, which will probably be sometime in 2025, where we're trying to understand the impacts of installing heat pumps in low-income family homes. So what is the impact on cost? What is the impact on their air quality? What is the impact on their comfort, right? So we're trying to understand those things so that we can be more informed and have better programs in the future. So these are just some highlights. This isn't by any means a comprehensive list of what we're working on. There's a whole lot more, but these are kind of the key ones that we're currently working on and have been working on. And if we're successful in this, right, the end goal is to electrify, like I said. And the question always comes up, and I'm sure some of you have this question, is if we do that, if we electrify everything, is the grid ready for that electrification, right? I'm sure some of you, and I've gotten this question every time I talk at any event, at any community engagement I go to, I get this question. And I'll answer this question in a moment, but I just want to provide a little bit of context before I answer this about what we do at Toronto Hydro, right? So we've successfully connected customers for over 100 years. That's what we do. That's what we do day in, day out. And in the last 20 years or so, in the last 2 decades, we've spent about $9 billion in sustaining and expanding and modernizing the grid, right? And as a result of that, we currently have sufficient power available at our station level to meet the electrification in the short term here. So that's rapid EV charger expansion, rapid heat pump installation, and the electric water heaters, as well as solar and battery panels. So in short, the answer is we are ready for electrification, right? And I'll give you some more information as to how and why that is. So first and foremost is that we, in our 2025 to 2029 investment plan, we propose spending approximately $5.9 billion to further expand and modernize our electricity grid. Just to give you a little bit of context on this, when I say investment plan and what that means, the way the utilities, all the electricity utilities and gas utilities actually too are governed is we have a body which is called the Ontario Energy Board. And the Ontario Energy Board governs us, and basically we have to submit every 5 years, every utility does, submit an investment plan to the Ontario Energy Board, which they review, go through a very rigorous review of that plan. And then based on that, they might recommend changes, and then that plan gets approved. And once that plan gets approved, it gets implemented. So that's what I'm talking about here when I say about an investment plan. We've submitted that to the OEB last year, and it's going through the review process right now. And we expect a decision based on that plan sometime towards the end of this year. And that's where we've requested that $5.9 billion. To bring that down to sort of what that means for the average consumer, the proposed bill impacts table here at the bottom shows what the bill impacts would be to an average residential customer and other types of customers there as well. But for the purpose of our conversation on the residential side, that $5.9 billion results in about $3.44 of increase on your bill per year in those years from 25 to 29. Now, I'll just again mention that these bill impacts are based on our proposed plan. Once it gets approved, these things might change and the bill impacts might vary in the final, but this is just to give you an idea of what it might look like in the future. So to dig deeper a little bit into the specific technologies here that we've been talking about and how they impact the grid and what we're doing about that, right? So I'll start here with heat pumps. So the thing to remember about the grid is that the grid is built around the peak load demand, right? And when I say the grid, I mean the entire 3 pieces that we talked about before. So the generation, the distribution, and the transmission are all built to meet that peak demand. That's what the system's built to. Now, currently, our grid peaks in the summer. It's a summer peaking grid. And you can see the demand profile here in the graph shows that it's about in July is when the grid peaks. And that's what everything is built according to. That's what everything is built to support. And if we increase the peak load in the summer, then we do have to build capacity both all in the distribution, transmission, generation side to meet that additional peak demand. But that's only if we increase the actual system peak, which currently happens in the summer. The thing about heat pumps is that they don't significantly contribute, at least for now, to the peak. Because if you think about it, when you have if you already have an air conditioner at home, you replace your air conditioner and your furnace with a heat pump. In the summertime, you won't actually have an additional demand on your electricity because you already had an air conditioner that had a certain demand. And when your heat pump acts like an air conditioner in the summer, that demand's not going to go up. In fact, it actually might go down depending on how old your air conditioner is, because the heat pump's going to be a little bit more efficient. But the point is that it's not going to actually contribute to the summer demand. Your heat pump will increase your winter peak because now you have electric heating in the winter. So your winter peak will go up, but it won't contribute to the summer peak. All that to say that for the short term, we actually don't have to significantly build the grid out and invest in the grid assets to meet the uptake of heat pumps. And based on our projections, it'll be approximately in the 2030s when the peak shifts from a summer to a winter peak. So essentially, there's time between now and then for a lot of heat pumps to be installed without needing significant grid updates. Now, we are planning for this shift, and we are making the necessary investments today so that customers will have the power available when they need it in the future. So that's what we're working on right now. And that's part of our investment plan that we put together. The next piece is electric vehicles. So EVs mostly charge during off-peak times. That's usually the trend for electric vehicles. But if they aren't managed properly, they could pose problems to the grid. And especially the larger sort of level 3 chargers, right? So we've studied the impacts of EVs, EV charger growth, and we've also been investing in programs to test out managed charging, how managed charging works in the real world. And essentially managed charging means where the utility has some control over when charging happens, or even using the batteries in electric vehicles to supply back to the grid. So there's all these things that we can do with EVs to support the grid as well. So we're exploring all those options right now. And the final is the solar and storage piece. So when it comes to solar and storage, there's this technical thing called short circuit capacity that could be a limiting factor in installing more solar and storage. And you can see here, there's a map of the city which shows areas where that capacity is currently constrained in red. And today it's about 1% or so of applications which get denied due to these short circuit capacity constraints. And in that investment plan that I was mentioning before, we've proposed projects to remove the current and anticipated constraints to allow more solar and storage to be connected in the future. So again, something that we're working on actively. So that's kind of the key message there. And I want to leave you with sort of the call to action, right? Like what are we trying to get to here? And these are the 3 things that I'll mention. One is to create a plan to electrify, right? Again, not everyone needs to electrify right away or all at once, but everyone should start making a plan and understanding what their path to electrification and to decarbonization is. In the meantime, you can start taking small steps, and there's easy wins that we can have right away. So these include simple things like air sealing in your home, duct sealing, attic insulation. These aren't free things, but they're also not super expensive, so people can start doing them as they, in the short term. And also switching your home appliances to be electric, right? So if you still have a gas lawnmower, switch it to an electric lawnmower. If you have a gas stove, you can switch that to an electric stove. Clothes dryers, anything that's natural gas equipment in your home, so you can slowly start switching that to electric. And then the key thing here is these 3 key shopping decisions that we want customers to be ready to make when the time is right, right? So whenever you're in the market for a new car, replace your existing with an electric vehicle. When your furnace breaks down, replace it with an electric heat pump. Maybe don't wait until it breaks down when it's end of life. It's, usually they're about 15 to 20 years lifetime. So if you're at like 13 years, maybe start thinking about that. And replace your hot water heater with an electric boiler or electric hot water heater rather. So these are the things that we're asking customers to kind of plan for, to be ready for, and when the time is right to make these 3 key shopping decisions. So that's kind of the end of my presentation there. I'll leave you here with some contact information and some resources. I want to highlight the new heat pump calculator that we have on our website. Go try it out. It's very easy to use, very little information is required, and it'll give you an estimate of cost, of savings, of GHG reductions. You can also learn about more about climate action in your home. And if you're interested in reading the climate action plan, you can go and do that as well. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to our sort of mailbox there at climateaction@torontohydro.com. And Dominic, if you want to share my email address with the group, you guys can reach out to me directly as well. Happy to chat with any of you. So again, thank you so much, everyone, for joining.